Hey crafty friends, welcome to a giveaway video hop. In my description box are details on how to enter to win a not too shabby $25 gift card, as well as the next person in this hop. This giveaway is open to all. For today's card, I'm using the pumpkin from the Fall Gnomes, one of the pumpkin sets from Pumpkin Spice Everything, the leaves from You Me Pumpkin Spice, and then almost every single critter from the Critter Costume Party set. So there's a lot going on for this jam-packed slimline scene card. As you can see, I have stamped out all my images I plan to use on Eclipse masking paper, and I've laid it out on my card already. This is the easiest way for me to plan out a complicated scene card, and I have two panels of my slimline card that measures at 3.5 by 8.5 inches. This one, will be my scene template, and the other one will be the panel that I actually stamp on. So I'm using my scene template to choose the frontmost images, and I'll line up my stamps according to it. So I just find the ones that are by themselves or are just right out in front that have nothing else overlapping it. I'll use my MISTI to pick up those stamps, remove my template, insert my blank card panel, and I'll stamp on that blank card panel. Once I finish stamping out those first images, I'll take the mask from the scene template and move them onto my stamped card panel. This ensures that I have all these images that are stamped first masked, so when I stamp later on, they'll be protected and I wouldn't have to worry about it. Once I remove all the mask, I'll take out my scene template again and I'll line up the stamps. For this particular stamp, it's a little bit larger, so I had to stamp it and move the panel outside of my MISTI, and it was just easy to do. You just want to make sure that you've lined it up exactly. So I'll repeat this process until the entire scene template is empty and my entire scene is stamped out. This is one of my more complicated scene cards. Usually I create a ton of scene cards and I do love masking, but a lot of the masking is so I can use distress inks for the background. I love any distress ink combos or ink blending combos, but this one with the Critter Costume Party set, I just wanted to use almost every single one of them. I think I only left out the sloth, and that was because I needed to leave a little bit of space for my sentiment, which I left a small area at the top right-hand corner that I'll later either heat emboss or stamp on a sentiment strip and adhere to the card. It definitely takes a bit of time to get this all set up. I did fussy cut out all the masks, and the shapes are actually pretty easy. These stamp sets have pretty bold lines, and I wasn't too concerned about having a hard time cutting them or anything like that. I think that the hardest part of creating a complicated scene card is remembering to remove the masks from the template, and sometimes I've forgotten and I've stamped directly on it and then I've had to start over, so that was a bummer. It takes a bit of practice and getting used to removing the templates, adding the mask, stamping it properly, but eventually you'll get used to the process and creating complicated scene cards will be a breeze. For the background of this card, I pulled out Ink on 3 Atelier inks to do a bit of ink blending. These inks are really creamy, so I was concerned with doing a circular motion to blend these colors, and because of the creaminess of these inks, I was able just to pounce on the color instead of really blending it. I didn't want to risk pulling up the mask because some of them are actually pretty thin and delicate that you might just pull up the mask and you'll get the ink colors on the stamped area. So I really was just very careful when I was ink blending this. And definitely with more intricate masking, you just have to be a lot more careful, or you have to adhere it to the card panel so the mask doesn't lift up. But I am using the colors Twiggy Brown, Bee Sting Yellow, Marigold Orange, and My Jam Purple. I thought that these were perfect Halloween-y colors for the sky, and the ground, and I thought it worked really well. The only issue I had was that the yellow and the orange and the purple were a little bit too bright. So I fixed that by pulling out the Paint It Black color and just lightly pouncing it across the entire card panel, and I thought that it just gave it a very spooky Halloween dusty look that I really liked. It just made it look perfect and really dulled down the vibrancy. Like so many people who do ink blending and masking, my favorite part is just the reveal. Removing those masks and revealing all that white space underneath and having entire background colored. I think that this was my go-to technique when I first started card making because I really did like scene building and ink blending. And the idea that I didn't need to use my Copic markers to color up an entire background was just amazing to me. So I know this card in particular has a lot of white space. It probably has more white space than the ink blended space. So it is a ton of coloring, which I am including in the video, just so you can see how everything came together. I am coloring assembly line style, which is just taking one color and coloring every single thing that is in that color so I don't have to keep opening and closing my markers. And I color these pumpkins, and I realized that afterwards I left out two pumpkins, one that the little hedgehog is holding and the pumpkin that's right in front of the ghost, which is hilarious to me because most of the time when I am crafting, I miss the things that are right in front of me. I lose things all the time and they are always right in front of me. Sometimes I'll just tell my sister to like, hey, I've been looking for this, where is it? And it's like right on the table and she'll just laugh at me. But I feel like that's something all crafters go through, and I don't know why. It's just you're so focused or you've been staring at things for way too long and you just don't notice them. But coloring assembly line style really speeds up the process because you're using so many Copics to create the dimension. I always end up with so many Copic markers when I finish coloring. This one in particular, I've used a lot of colors. I tend to stick with the same colors and use them throughout a card scene because I want it to be cohesive. In this case, it's a lot of orange, black, and purple, and I had some pops of colors with I think a little bit of yellow for the bee and blue for like the bunny's flower on their head. But other than that, I try to limit my Copic colors because it's just so much, but there's so many elements in this card that it kind of required it, and I was okay with it. I kind of just sat and colored and it was so fun. I was just watching some movies while I was coloring, and I think that that's the best way to spend like a weekend afternoon is just to color and relax and just get immersed into it. Some of these images kind of have stamped areas that aren't 100% perfect. I'm just going to go in with a Copic friendly pen afterwards and just darken up those lines. And I think that the llama spiderweb is the most noticeable, but I just always do that with my stamping because sometimes I just don't want to bother stamping it again. And it also helps with the bold image. The ink that I used was Blackout ink, which I think is really good black ink that's Copic friendly and watercolor friendly, but sometimes of course you didn't ink it enough and so it stamps a little bit lighter than others. And also because I was playing with mask, I just really didn't want to re-stamp it just in case I accidentally shifted my paper or something like that. I'm really loving how this card is turning out. I love that it's so crowded and includes so many images from all four stamp sets from the fall bundle. So Not Too Shabby is an online store that sells other crafty products, but she has her own line called Not Too Shabby and features a ton of super cute stamp sets. I originally had found her shop because I had seen a card using unicorns, and I personally love unicorn images, so I just had to have them. I asked the card maker where she got them, and it led me to her store. Ever since then, I've been really loving all her sets because they are so cutesy. So if you are a cutesy person that loves those cutesy stamp sets, then this is the perfect line for you, especially those unicorns. Those were my first love from her store. Regardless, this fall bundle comes at a discounted price for all 4 stamp sets, and I just had to get all 4, and I just generally love fall sets, and I also love when there's a discount or a bundle price, which she has, and that's why I chose to do that instead of just getting like 2 stamp sets. But fall is my most favorite season. Funny enough, Halloween is kind of my least favorite holiday because I just never really enjoyed it as a kid. I think that now as an adult, I've kind of appreciated the creativeness that comes with the holiday, and I actually enjoy dressing up now. But as a kid, I just didn't get it. I didn't get why you dressed up on one day, and at school you would have like a costume parade and you'd walk around and your parents would take photos of you and you'd go around asking strangers for candy. I personally enjoyed giving away candy more than going to get candy. I don't know if it's just me, but Halloween was never my favorite until I turned into an adult and I was using Halloween as an outlet for craftiness and creativity, and I really enjoyed doing costume contests at work. So I've gone as Grapes, I've gone as Ursula, I like face makeup as well. But I think that that's one of the things that I just really didn't appreciate when I was a kid. And maybe I wasn't super creative back then, or I just didn't have the means to create fun costumes. But now I do enjoy it. My favorite holiday is actually Thanksgiving, but Halloween is kind of a kickoff to the holiday season, and it also gives those fall vibes. I am just finishing coloring the entire card panel. I have these leaves which were giving me a bit of difficulty because I didn't want them lost in the card because there's so much orange happening, but I do love the glow behind the little critters. I'm always excited to finish up coloring a large coloring card, and this is definitely one of those. So if you want to spend some time coloring, I would suggest that you just stamp out a scene, and then when you're watching TV or when you're like traveling on a plane or something, you can just have it to color, and then you end up with an awesome card. Once I finish up the coloring, I had left a little bit of space in the top right hand corner for the sentiment. I had to plan it out because the scene was so involved and it didn't leave enough room for any large sentiments or anything like that. And you also don't want to distract away from the entire scene with the sentiment. I did choose the trick or treat one from the critter costume party, and I am just putting it in my Misty, inking it up with some Versamark ink because I will be heat embossing it. I used an anti-static powder tool to just prime up the area, and I was lazy and I kind of dipped it into my Tupperware of embossing powder. I do go in with a craft pick just to get a little bit of that embossing out of the way. Sometimes there's just excess, and a craft pick is an easy way to get rid of the little specks that are left over. But that is it for today's card. I hope you enjoy this awesome scene in this slimline card, and definitely remember to check out the next hop on this video hop for a chance to win a $25 gift card from Not Too Shabby. All right, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.